Is there a more human way to approach this topic of resiliency? We've been talking about overwhelm. You've heard a lot of conversations about how to be resilient. And yet, this year has thrown so much at us that I feel like we can't touch on it enough. And that's why I am thrilled to introduce you to Eileen McDargh. Eileen is an accomplished speaker, author, and she is a resiliency expert. She's going to break down some ideas on how you can exist in everything that's coming at you from your own strongest stance. I hope that you get something out of this. And let me tell you, I really enjoyed this conversation, so I hope you do too. Let's hear from Eileen. Welcome to the Leadership Coaching Group's podcast. I'm your host, Liz Howard, an entrepreneur, author, and executive leadership coach. This is where I introduce you to the top experts that discuss the burning topics that leaders at all levels need to know about. My goal is to help you become a leader that you are confident others will want to follow. So, subscribe to the show, listen in weekly, and watch your confidence as a leader grow. Eileen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Liz.
So talking to you right now is incredibly timely and probably incredibly important because you have a focus on resiliency and handling burnout. And wow, I mean, how many people are calling you right now just asking you for help? I can't imagine.
Last year in May, the World Health Organization declared burnout. They put it in their classification of diseases, and they declared it an occupational hazard, a global occupational hazard. So there's something majorly afoot.
I can just raise my hand and say, I'm feeling it. And I know that a lot of people that I just know socially and professionally are too. So is there some kind of common thread or something that you spotted that was afoot that is making us feel like we're falling victim, or in fact, perhaps is making us actually fall more victim to this now more than ever?
Well, I think a couple things are happening. First, let me give you a definition of burnout so that we're kind of on the same page. And I frankly like the definition that Dr. Herbert Freudenberger created, who coined that word burnout back in the mid-1970s. I like it better than what the World Health Organization came up with. And basically he said, it's to deplete yourself, to exhaust one's physical and mental resources, to wear out by excessively striving to reach some unrealistic expectation imposed either by yourself or by society. So if you look at the heart of that, it is really this notion of wearing out. And when we wear out, when we become exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally, in many ways, then we say, what does I do? What is it that I am expecting of myself? And I believe that over the last, I would say at least the last 5 to 7 years, so much has been put on us because of technology. All of a sudden, you're supposed to handle all of these different things. Oh, technology will make it easier. Well, yes and no. It also puts a lot more demands upon us. And what's happened now with the pandemic and the working from home, and now people are saying, "Oh my God, home! This used to be a benefit. Could I work one day from home?" And it was perceived as a perk. Now it's not a perk. It's a negative. And so, to be able to assess first and foremost, what is happening to me? You tire more easily. You seem to be working harder and accomplishing less. You can't remember the last time you really played or had fun. You have a hard time to laugh at yourself. People say you're irritable. The only regular exercise you get is walking around the house and picking up after the kids or whatever that looks like. So there's all kinds of things that kind of contribute to that notion of burnout. But I think it is the speed at which we've asked people to perform. I think it is also the complexity and the volume. And that when we have all this in front of us, we don't know how to stop and say, whoa, what does this look like? So that this notion of blending together the work that I do and the life that I lead is something that seems unattainable. And I will tell you, I think it is absolutely attainable, but it's not going to happen overnight, which is why I say it is building resilience to refuel, recharge, and reclaim what matters.
All right. And you said that you also, and I love that definition you gave for burnout and I'm like nodding my head as you're talking about all of that. Like, yep, that's what I'm feeling. And I think a lot of us are too. But then to build resilience, you have kind of a different take on that word as well. Should we go ahead and define that?
I do. I do. Right now, when things are so crazy, people say, okay, well, we're just going to bounce back. Because if you look at the dictionary definition, that's pretty much what it says, that an object compressed under stress, when the stress is gone, it moves back to its original position. Well, that's fine if you're a piece of steel or if you're a willow tree that bends and snaps back. But for the human system, Liz, there is no going back. We're not going to go back. Your life, what your life is like today and the experiences that you have and the people that you talk to, tomorrow is going to be different. You can recall our conversation, but we're not going to go back. You cannot step in the same river twice. The water has moved on. So to me, resilience is about growing. It's about growing through challenge or opportunity. So you end up wiser, better, smarter, kinder on the other side.
So this sounds fascinating. And I have to say, it also sounds very challenging because if you are at that point of being burned out and you kind of are operating with an empty cup, as it were, to do any type of thought work and concentrated self-work is also work and energy, right? And it seems like it could be a little harder to be introspective and figure those things out. So what does a person do if they're pretty darn close to that burnout point and they need to like fix it?
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to do what it says at a railroad track. Stop, look, and listen. You have to stop. I mean, physically stop. Look around. What are the things that you are doing today? Only today, because you can't influence tomorrow yet. All you have is today. What are the things that you are engaged in right now that when you look at it, you say, I don't want to do this. I can't do this anymore. First and foremost, to get back into control, the best way to begin to feel that you're getting back in control is to start with the physical. And when I say the physical, Liz, it's two ways. One is your physical body. And that's to say, what kind of sleep am I getting? The second thing is exercise of any kind of intensity that you want. The other thing about physical control is I want you to look at your physical surroundings. If you are sitting in a place where all you see is clutter and mess and papers and files and dirty dishes and you name it, you are physically looking at mess and it absolutely exhausts you just to look at it. So what is the one thing that you could do to get some physical order where you're in control? But you want to create this sense of order. And when I have some sense of order, I can breathe. I mean, even now, thinking about all the clutter and crap and stuff, you can almost feel yourself becoming just exhausted thinking about that.
So here's something that I've heard some people say recently that I thought was fascinating. And they say something along the lines of this: I feel like I can't unplug. I feel like I have to be working more and I still don't feel like I'm getting enough done. Can you unpack what might be going on with someone like that?
I think the first one is fear. And the reason I say fear is we're afraid that if, quote, the boss, the manager, whoever you want to call it, says, what have you accomplished? Because we're at home and nobody can actually see what we do, we work harder, so we can prove our worth. So you as the employee can say, out of all of these things that I'm sitting looking at, what are the top 3 things, Mr. Ms. Manager Leader, that I need to have done and by when? Just tell me the top 3. You don't need 33. I just want 3. Because they can help you create that. And also, leader, manager, you have a responsibility because you can be creating this, not knowing what it takes to do what it is that you've asked the person to do. Say, tell me how you're feeling right now. Are we overloading you? Because we know that the quality, the garbage in, garbage out.
Can you talk about how being burned out affects our personal relationships and what the cost of it is?
If I'm irritable, I'm not getting enough sleep, I'm not getting the exercise, I'm overdone. Our conversations are short, they're truncated. We're probably very short-tempered. You tell me what that does to a relationship. We pass each other in the night, and I'm too busy to talk to you right now because I have this deadline. So I'm going to go back, stop, look, and listen. The two of you stop and say, whoa, hold the phone. What are we doing? How do we create a system and a routine that supports us as well as the work? And if you're going to be a manager, if you're a smart manager, you're going to ask people to do that. You are going to become aware that there has to be a break. So what happens when we go to work is we have this break where you get in the car and you go someplace, or you walk down the street and you get on the elevator, and there's this break. Well, when we're living in the same environment where we're working, there is no break. The question with the person who lives in the house is, how are we going to create the break? And the break would be, I'm going to make this up, but let's say at 5:00 at night, all work stops. Cell phone goes off. And I've already alerted my team that after 5:00, unless it's an emergency, I'm not answering the cell phone. I'm not looking at it. And you and your best beloved, it's a wonderful summer day. You might go sit outside and get a glass of marvelous water or have a gin and tonic or whatever you want. And you're just going to sit there. You're going to put all that stuff away because it's going to be there for you tomorrow. But unless I create those boundaries for myself, Liz, nobody's going to create them for you. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you, 99% of the time, the people who are giving you the work have no idea what it takes for you to do that. So unless you create the boundary, and if you're very good, they'll keep giving you more and more. Not to be mean, it's just we have this unrealistic expectation. Well, I must be very important because I keep getting more and more and more. Stop that. Because our work and our lives are intertwined.
There's one question that I like to ask all of my guests. And if you had just one piece of advice to offer to a brand new leader, what would it be?
I would think for a brand new leader is to come in knowing that you don't know.
So, Eileen, if people just want to keep learning from you, which I imagine they likely will after hearing all this great advice, where can they go to find you and any of the books that you've written? Because you have a few. Where's the best place to find you?
So if they just go www.eileenmcdargh.com, you'll find all manner of information. You will see the various hats that I wear.
Eileen, thank you so much for coming on and speaking about this very timely and important topic. I personally took a lot from what you said, and I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Oh, I'm glad. Thank you, Liz, so much. It was my joy.
All right, guys. Until next week. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, if you're getting anything out of this show, please head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. I read every single one, and honestly, your feedback is single-handedly what keeps this show going. So go to iTunes and let us know you're listening. Thank you so much for being a part of our community.